Yeah, so I'm just going to hit the record here. Yeah. All right. So, hello and welcome everybody. So, this live today is brought by 12 Weeks to Wellness as usual. We're your natural health and wellness coaching provider for over 20 years now. My name is Emma Carpenter, and I am the host for these monthly LinkedIn Lives that we're doing. Today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming back Debbie Pearmain. So Debbie, for those of you that don't know Debbie, she's an accomplished human resources consultant and coach. And she has many, many years of experience. I say that not one to make you sound old at all, but you do have lots of experience and wisdom that you bring to this conversation today. And I'm so excited for our conversation today, Debbie. So welcome back.
I am equally excited. I said to Emma, I have 10 pages of notes because there's lots to say. So we'll see if we can do it in 15 minutes. But
That's right. Yeah, we can do it. All right.
Mhm.
So today we are diving into a very timely conversation around AI and employee well-being. So as AI takes more over the repetitive tasks in our workday, the big question becomes, how do we make sure that time is used to build connection and not just increase output? This is something that I've thought about a lot lately because in our daily work, the AI is super helpful in that it really speeds up how quickly we can produce things and the output that we have. But it concerns me at times that, does that just mean that we just start producing more? Or instead of really taking that extra time that it should free up to really focus on the things that AI can't do, which it really adds that value, that human connection. So let's start that there, Debbie. How can we make sure that time is used to really foster connection rather than just squeezing in more work now when AI comes in?
Great question. And Emma, it's really a powerful question because I think this is critical. It's really at the heart of how we're going to shape the future of work and human connection. So AI, we know it frees up time, and then how we use the time is completely dependent on your intention, right? People's intention and the culture of where they're working. Um, so I think that we really want to be encouraging people to actively choose to redirect their freed up time towards things like connection, creativity, and well-being, rather than the knee-jerk reaction, which is just more output, more tasks. Um, it really is going to come down to self-control and self-management and like people needing to be disciplined and committed. I've got lots of ideas, right? So I don't know if you want me to share your idea, share the ideas, but I think, again, it's so teaching people, okay, if you're going to be intentional about this, here's some ways that you can do it. I would say we're in a situation now, and I do a lot of work with clients on this where we're having to redefine what productivity looks like. So what does that mean? It's shifting from a mindset or culture where we measure output alone to actually measuring and valuing things like collaboration, right? Trust, innovation. And I would even go so far as to say creating KPIs that are going to reward meaningful connection, like mentorship hours or cross-team collaboration, right? Creative time, innovative ideas. Um, I think we're going to need to teach people to schedule like their, white space more intentionally. So on the positive, right, we can use AI to create space in our calendars, but it's going to be up to us as individuals to then guard that time, right? And to protect that time and not just again be like driven to distraction or driven to the need to keep producing and doing more. So, I mean, in the teaching I do about well-being, I really encourage people to use any white space more intentionally for things like self-reflection, right? Social catch-ups, and even learning, right? So it's what are you doing with your white space? And make sure you're protecting that time. I also think we can build team rituals, right, that focus on connection. So, yes, again, the positive, use AI to handle things like meeting notes or summaries or follow-ups, but then allow people the time they would have spent doing those things to spend more time in more meaningful, deeper conversations, right? And time for that human connection. And I know I've got lots to say, but the last thing I'm going to say, Emma, is I think this is all about leaders and the examples that they set. So I think our leaders need to model making connection a priority. You can use AI to lighten your workload, but then spend time mentoring, spend time listening, spend time having more meaningful coaching conversations, spend time being more present, right? That's what's going to really set the tone in the culture. So I've got
Mm.
more ideas, but those are just a few that, come to my mind right away.
Can AI help us at all in that, in having better coaching conversations, in performance management? Like, what does AI bring from that perspective and assisting in that?
I mean, of course. So note taking, right? So now as a coach, what I love is I'm not dual like tasking. I'm actually really more present in my conversations that I have with people instead of taking notes, thinking of questions, and then right asking
Mhm.
questions and conversing. It's going to make people better listeners and more present. So if
Mhm.
you're using AI to take notes from meetings, I think that that's super helpful. And then from a even coaching and performance management perspective, you can use AI to see patterns. You can use AI
Mhm.
for problem solving. You can use AI to try and get to like the root of things. Now, that's not to say that I still don't use my experience and my own knowledge to review that information to see
Mhm.
is that what I'm seeing? Is that what I'm picking up? Is that what I'm hearing? But it also can help to pattern recognize, right? Whereas
Mhm.
a lot of the times when you're in a conversation, you're in a problem, you're in a situation, it's hard for you to see that quickly and clearly, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it really becomes this, and I think that as it is emerging and we're using AI more and more, we're realizing that it needs to be a hybrid, right? We can ask for things and we can get it to output it, but it has to be a conversation where it goes back and forth, and I still put my experience and my perspective on it in anything that it outputs, right?
Yeah. And what I am encouraging my clients to do is create and map out what a human first AI
Mhm.
culture could look like, right? Like we've
Yeah.
got to be really intentional and strategic about this. So
Hmm.
designing, right, AI principles and guardrails is probably one of the most powerful things that organizations and teams can be doing, right? So that it's not just shaping what's getting done, but how people feel while they're doing it. And I would create a framework with principles. And so I've helped clients do that where it's human first, AI second. I think that's really important. Transparency, right? Over like the mystery piece of AI, I think is really important. So everyone should get some training to understand how the tools work and what data they use and how that's affecting decision making.
And what
And
information we put in.
yeah, exactly. Like really making sure and plain language explanations for any AI driven processes, because sometimes it's super complex and confusing to the average person. So I think our team members need to have visibility and control, right, over the data that's collected and how it's used. I also think a really important principle is to empower and not micromanage. So I think AI should be giving people more agency and not reducing their autonomy to the point where they feel like they're like under surveillance, right? So yeah, I think using whatever insights AI brings with some kind of human context, so managers and team members can interpret data together, but not just rely on it blindly, right? I think that's important. And I'd probably say the last principle that I think is really valuable is this fostering of connection piece, right? So AI should create more space for relationships, collaboration, and belonging, not less. and
So
making
that
sure
kind of
you're
brings me.
creating a strategy that it really is based on those principles.
So I want to go back to you talking about, the trust and autonomy and the belonging, because I think that there's a fear as well that, a lot of people feel that there is a danger in bringing in AI and feeling somewhat not valued and that you're being replaced, right? So how does AI change that emotional landscape of work and really feeling valued and that there's trust in that I bring value to the organization and not being replaced?
Yeah. So again, super powerful conversation, and great question. So I think number one is, are we replacing people? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's no. So we have to be really clear, honest, and upfront in our communication. Um, I think where we're seeing replacement is in things like customer service, right? You see like the AI chatbots and voice assistants replacing human agents in healthcare. We're seeing it with diagnostics and triage and content creation, right? Coding. But we're also seeing that AI can augment humans' abilities rather than replace it. And so I think it's, again, as you're creating some kind of strategy around this, it's thinking of how is this going to impact people? How are we going to keep the trust? I think it's through openness. I think it's through transparency. But I do think we need to have a clear strategy and know exactly, right, what we're doing, and then to be able to communicate to people how it will benefit them, what some of the potential consequences might be. um, I think some of these principles of trust apply with AI just as they do relationships. So transparency, right? Accountability, I'd say fairness, I'd say reliability. Like these are all really important considerations.
Mhm. So then the last thing I want to ask just Debbie, then how does AI support our well-being then? How can we use that to support?
Yeah, so interesting. I'm seeing more and more. I mean, there's tools, right? So there's lots of tools that I think I'm going to make some suggestions about because they're great tools to support well-being. We know mental health support, right, has really grown. So virtual therapists, like people have access now to counseling in all kinds of places at all hours of the day. Emotional check-ins, right? CBT-based therapy, crisis text lines are using AI, right, to triage messages and connect people to human responders a lot more quickly. So that's super positive. Um, I use apps like Headspace and Calm, so mindfulness and meditation apps, right? They can personalize recommendations based on user behavior, right? Based on goals, also for wellness tracking, right? So again, lots of things like Fitbit. You're wearing it and it's using AI to interpret your data, your sleep, your stress, and then it's giving you personal feedback. And then lastly, I'd say from a coaching, right, and behavior change perspective, there's apps like Noom, right, and Better Up, and they're using AI to tailor things like coaching paths and reminders based on what we input as
Mhm.
users.
Yeah.
So I think that, that's all super positive.
Hmm.
And then we've got concerns like privacy and data ethics and over reliance on AI and even some bias, right, in AI, because some models are trained on biased data. So they can perhaps misinterpret or mishandle things like emotional signals, especially things like from a cross-cultural
Hmm.
perspective. I think we've got to be cautious. Um, I'm going to say for anyone on here who's really curious about AI and mental health and well-being, there is a great research project right now. It's called AI for Mental Health, and that's through Stanford and MIT. So they're doing a ton of research to explore how AI can detect early warning signs of things like depression or anxiety. I think that checking out some of that research would be really helpful. Um, And then did you want me to share some good resources for people who have joined us here today about
I
AI
think that
and
would be great, Debbie. Yeah.
yeah. I know that one that I'm really starting to learn more about, it's called WYSA. So this is an AI powered mental health chatbot, and it uses CBT, DBT, and mindfulness techniques. And what I like about it, so again, it's WYSA, is they have a free version available. So I just think of like all the work I do in mental health and well-being and how we do have a lot of barriers, right, with costs. Not all companies have good benefits to support counseling. Not everyone, lots of people today are self-employed, so they have no benefits for any kind of support. So I love that one. And then another one is called Wobot. So it's WOEBOT. And this is an AI mental health companion, and it's been developed by psychologists and AI experts. So interesting. It's like short daily conversations focused on giving people emotional support.
Hmm,
Right.
great.
So there are some positive things. And I
Mhm,
mentioned already Calm and Headspace. And there's a lot of, good research being done. So,
mhm. Yeah.
mhm.
And I think going back to what we said before as well, the best is when we can have some kind of hybrid solution as well. And I encourage you to keep checking our LinkedIn, and we have some exciting things happening on our end as well with our wellness portal, where we're bringing in more AI into that journey to really personalize journeys for individuals as well, but doing it in a way that we're very clear on who has that self-directed AI-driven journey, and when you actually need to have a conversation with a live coach as well, because we have both wellness coaches and dietitians on our staff, right? So when do we need to tap into that? But that's something that is coming that we're very excited about. But always, as always, when we bring in things like that, it's a very careful consideration about how we bring it in a way that we can keep data safe. So we're just taking our time on just making sure that we really get that right, because that's something that is really important for us. So, but keep your eye on that and what's coming. We'll have some exciting news to share soon, probably about that. So excited about that.
That's wonderful.
But yeah,
And yeah, I just want to say the key message here is like the goal, I think, is this human-centered AI. Right? So
yeah,
respecting autonomy, building trust, and augmenting like our human capability, not replacing it. Right? And
yeah,
that's kind of the key message. And a lot of that is going to be based on how companies are designing, regulating, and using it. So
yeah.
the strategy is really critical.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if anyone needs help with that, it sounds like you're the go-to person here, Debbie. So I encourage
Definitely
everybody
can
just
help support
yeah,
from a
yeah,
well-being perspective.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And
Thank
I want to just do a plug too. If anyone is going to be at the BCCPHR conference next week, please come and check out. We will be there at the booth. So if you want to come and have a conversation, I know that there will be lots of conversations around AI and well-being while we're there as well, and how it fits into
you.
HR as well. So we're really looking forward to those conversations there. And thank you so much, Debbie, for coming back to chat with us about that. And we'll send out some resources as well and share out the recording for anybody as well.
Thank you so much for having me. And as always,
Yeah,
it's like a real delight for me to be with you and just, yeah, sharing these important conversations. So thank you.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks again. And we'll be back with more exciting conversations soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Take
Thanks
care,
everybody for
everyone.
coming.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you.